Nice to see you. Well, welcome to my Friday night catch-up live stream. My name is Lana Labonte, and I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you are meant to be. It's why you're here. And me, I am here to serve from the capacity of leading through my personal life and my experiences. So, have a sip, get something, get cozy, get comfortable. Let's have a little, nightly chat. So good. Shop local. This is Escape Route in Dunedin, Florida. Highly recommend them. I am all about supporting local. It also feels so good. So this is Turmeric Glow. And inside of this is lemon, pineapple, orange juice. It's refreshing. So good. And it just feels so good on my face right now too. I came home from a walk tonight. What are you up to this beautiful Friday night? I saw a yellow-headed heron. And I've seen it before. I had to look it up because I didn't know what type of bird it was. But when it turns its head sideways, it has the feather that comes up behind it on the top of its head. And the actual head of it, when it turns left, looks like an eye. It looks like an eye. It's really, you may even think, well, is that possibly in the peacock family? Because it's so cool. So I saw it a couple weeks ago. I saw it last week. Yeah, in fact, it crossed my path and I was like, it's like looking in an eye, looking back at you. It was so cool. So tonight I was watching it and I did a little catch the video. It must have captured a very small crab because it was trying to break the shell and devour it. And when I looked it up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. The meaning behind it, herons have a lot of meanings behind them. I don't recall every little detail. So repeating it here would have to wait. All right, here we are in between eclipse season. And it's so funny that if you watch my last video, that everything I was talking about, the theme being letting go of what is no longer serving you, is essentially what went in my face last week. And you know what? Nobody is immune. Everybody is going through something right now. Everybody is being challenged, is being faced, or poked and provoked is the way I like to call it. Because in the Kundalini Yoga tradition, God stands for the generator, the organizer, the deliverer or destroyer, depends on your mindset. And a lot of the teachings are meant to poke and provoke you, to wake you up. It's not in a negative sense of like, I'm trying to get your goat or I'm trying to upset you. Poking and provoking is getting you to look within. And that's one of the reasons I really have loved the tradition of all these years. Despite all, there's always a guru with their issues. You get to a certain level and, Satan comes in with a little contract, says you want to keep going higher? Because the only way for you to go higher is to sign on the blood-dotted line, right? There's, it's human. It's a human element. We can't put people or things on pedestals because that's what usually lets us down the most. And I have been known to do that from time to time. And as I shared in my last video, that for me, my values are transparency, authenticity, and integrity. I hold myself to a high enough regard and standard as it is. No, I have not taught my class yet. Don't worry. I hold myself to such a high regard that when other people don't meet me where I'm at, it's like, oh, this sucks. It makes my world feel small and sometimes lonely. And I say that because I have been known to put others in a higher regard than they hold themselves. I'm saying this especially for people that have been in my life over the past years, over the whole course of my life. I have had people that maybe they showed up and they supported me one time and then let me down another time that really blew me away, which is what came up last week. And I really don't want to go into all the details. But let's say it's not, it's one of the most challenging things in my life that I've had to confront and face. It's one of the things that makes me so interesting. The woman of many lives. You know, they say cats have many lives. Well, I'm a Leo and I have many lives. And in my past life, I lived in Europe. I had a whole nother life. I made really good money. I lived downtown in Naples, Italy. I felt protected. I felt at home. That was my home for that time. And became a part of a lifestyle. Even my girlfriend and I joke about how those were the days before Instagram and social media, and how we were the token American women, and we were wined and dined and taken on beautiful, extravagant life experiences, let's say. And it was another life. It was another world. And I enjoyed a lot of it. She enjoyed a lot of it. And there is also a dark side, just like there's a light to everything. And we can always count on the good memories and the good times. And mindset is everything, because we remember things from the level of happiness within us. Because we can recount the happiest of times, forgetting about the worst of the times too during that same period. Whereas if we are in our negative, we can only remember the negative as opposed to the positive that time. The one thing that most people don't realize is when you remember something, you remember it from the last time you talked about it, the last time you told the story. And we are easily influenced by our surroundings and the people around us, in the sense that if you're interrogated and you're asked questions about something, then it changes your story, because then you start even questioning, is that what I remember? Was that really my experience? Or other people sharing their experience and you going, well, that wasn't my experience. Especially in families, when you have conversations around, oh, remember that time, such and such, this and that. And then somebody else says, well, that's not the way I remember it. And they recount it differently. And there is different emotion from each person. There's always one more version of the truth beyond yours. And then there's the neutrality of everything in life. It is us humans that give everything meaning. That life is essentially neutral in experience, until we no longer hold an attachment to the outcome or our experiences in general. This is the interesting way that we ride the waves of this life. That from the time we're born and conditioned into what is good or bad, what is right or wrong, what is positive, what is negative, what is desirable, what is undesirable. Are we being good? Are we being bad? Are we going along to get along, right? And only you know. You're not here to confess your sins to your fellow human and just, oh, I did this. Stop. You don't have to prove a damn thing to anybody, people. The biggest lie is that you need to prove yourself to anybody, and that really you have to feel good about yourself inside. And even confront the inner dialogue and critic of your own that tells you what is right or wrong, and oh, you should feel bad about this, the shame department. In truth, that's still part of the old conditioning and the BS, the belief system, the doctrine, indoctrination that becomes the dogma. And if we can't clear that, then of course we're going to feel that. Get it? In order to be light, to travel light in this world, we have to actually lighten up. And that starts in the mind, and then we feel it in our bodies. And the body is always telling on the mind. You just listen to some of my videos. That's how I see it. That's how I feel it. That's how I've been experiencing it. And any time I've had a major crisis, a major physical ailment, land me in the hospital with appendicitis, ruptured implant. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking. The whole situation with IBS, and hey, Pamela, welcome to the live stream, Friday chat, catch up. Anytime something physical has happened to me, it has unveiled something of importance. And it took me recognizing, like, the appendix is deep disgust. And we can always say it's somebody outside of ourselves, but it essentially always goes back to ourselves. Because if you feel disgust toward another, it's really that you're disgusted with yourself. And that the forgiveness, which really doesn't need to exist, but if we talk about forgiveness, has to start from the point of self. Because the fingers pointing out need to go back. That we have to be good with and right with ourselves. And okay with whatever has happened. Okay, remember, mistakes don't exist. They're just choices, so make a new choice. Okay, you chose a bad partner. You can also choose to leave, or like in my case, kick them out. Because in the end, we have to recognize our worth, our value. It's only based on how we treat ourselves that others will treat us. So deep disgust. And then the breast implant exploding, literally all this heart work that I've done. We say forgiveness is necessary, but when it really boils down to it, it doesn't exist because you never needed forgiveness. It's a mental construct to give for. It's really just not shaming ourselves. Forgiveness is getting over the shame that we've been inflicting upon ourselves, the self-mutilation, flagellation, sabotage, all the things that we do to ourselves that we were taught. Why do we treat ourselves so poorly? We wouldn't treat a stranger that way, would we? And so this is really just, it's the unforgiven. Yeah, like I needed it when I forgave myself, because we go through the stages, we go through the phases. And so, you know, the languaging is really where I'm at. You know, Pamela, you and I talk, you get me. It's the languaging. It's the choosing of the words and the castings of the spells. To imply that we have to forgive ourselves or anyone else is really implying that something was wrong. How about just accepting? And for the average person who has not done a lot of healing, and even then, I'm really it's cringy to me. Now, the language is it. I said this last week, and I've said it in my past videos too, where you get to a certain point, and the words are even cringy to say. Healing. Healing implies something's wrong, and there is nothing wrong. Right? To learn to spell differently, because these are the castings of the spell of the world that we're living in. You are the magician, casting your spell with your tongue, right? So I really wanted to dive into this, and I had to print this all out because I'm like, wow, there's a lot that I've been wanting to say for the past week. Shit, I could have done a video, you know, right after that last one, and I've been feeling a lot of overwhelm because some things really churned up for me. And the reason that I even talk about this whole healing space and in the cringy sense of it is that for years, when I came back to the States in 2013 and I dove back into the spiritual community because, you know, that's what you got to do. And I'm that person, when I dive deep, I go deep. I'm bull deep. I joke and I say, we're not just going deep, baby. We're going bulldozer deep. So get yourself your gear, because if we're going to go down there, we're going to uncover and unravel some things that it's not always going to feel good. But again, it's not about always feeling good. It's about getting good at feeling. And the more you're willing to dive into that, and then the reward that comes as a result of it, and then there's a certain point where you can get addicted to that too. We talk about that in our Beyond Addiction program, where essentially it's like you can get addicted to being in the self-help arena. See, I'm doing my work, and there's a lot of people that are hiding out, and they have not quite yet uncovered the necessary things to go, hello, are you living your life? Are you applying this? Are you integrating? Like the biggest travesty in the self-help personal development world, in my personal opinion, and this goes back to 2008 when I did Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins, is the lack of integration, the lack of applying the knowledge and the wisdom that you just gained from a program. Most people get high right at the end, just like running a marathon, where you're like, for me, I'll never forget this one, running my marathon, and I'm like, oh my God, my feet, my aching, my everything hurts. And you're like, just get me across the finish line. I promise this will be my last one. And then there's that last mile or, half a kilometer, and you've got people screaming at you, go, 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 and the finish line's right in front of you, and you're like, oh, yes, and you get this again, it's the rush of the happy hormones and the adrenaline, and you're like, push, 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 yes, 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 and you get across the finish line, and you're like, yes, and then someone comes over and goes, what's next? It's a Jedi mind trick. Slow down, people. Every time that you go through a workshop, every time you do a rebirthing, any type of ceremony, it could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be 3 days, it could be a week. It still requires your attention, your reflection, your application and integration. Because again, information, it's everywhere. But how do you apply it in your life? Or are you just collecting the tickets, right? Going along, look at me, I got the certificate. Look at me, I'm this. Look at me, I'm that. Come on, all of us have something of that nature, and that's addictive in itself. Look at me, I got my degree, I'm this, I'm that, I have letters after my name. Who do you do that for, really? That's the big question. See, when I entered into the Kundalini arena, I just wanted to go to India. And everybody was like, sure you don't want to be a teacher? Because I was already a Hatha Vinyasa and I'd studied with Shiva Ray. And I'm like, well, I suppose. I had like 6 people asking me, assuming that it was good for me. And I'm like, well, they must see something I need to look into. So, of course, I went into the Kundalini yoga arena, not just as a practitioner, because I was already practicing it and I had my own daily practice. And I decided to become a teacher, obviously. Here we are. And I went through the level 1s, the full level 1 and all of the level 2s. So I can say I'm a level 2. And my biggest passion has always been the body, has always been somatic, has always been prana, has always been, all my life, I've been in fitness. And so this actually just felt like a natural, addition to my tools, because I used to teach aerobics, kickboxing, Pilates, and I've done it all. So why not? Let's add some more. And then I realized so much of this is languaging. So much of this is mindset, awareness. Is really tapping into me, I see your wisdom. That you can sit on your mat, you can read all the books you want, but when it boils down to it, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the simplicity of reading a book can spark something in you, as can sitting in a meditation and following your breath and acknowledging how your cells come alive and how the breath is what sustains you and keeps you, maintains you, that without the breath of life, you would not be here. I like to say that God, source, universe loves you so much that every inhalation is love. Every exhalation is love. And that actually, at the root of everything, is love. Every motivation originates from love. Every inspiration comes from love. It's hard to read these days. There's so much media to listen to, isn't there? Are we consuming or being consumed, though? And I've had to catch myself over listening to other stuff and then going, ooh, where's my wisdom? I have to sit down and catch myself. Because that can in itself become an addiction and a distraction. Because I have a lot I need to work on. And when I look around my house, I'm like, something, you need to sit down, girlfriend. You need to write. You got a lot of writing to do. You got a lot of stuff to put together. Although I have a lot together already, it can be a distraction. So that is the title of this entire video is, are you fully in your allness or shrieking in your smallness? And I've done a little bit of both, especially over these years, that when I look back over this past, I overstayed in areas where I should have been gone because it was comfortable. It was familiar. And I think that if we stay too long, then we start to doubt ourselves to the point where we're not sure. Do I have the strength, the courage? Am I going to make the right decision? Am I going to do the right things? You know, like the whole questioning. And I share this because I know I'm not the only one out there. And because I know it's scary. It's scary to put yourself out there, especially in this arena. I love to speak. I have no problem with personal speaking. I have no problem with workshops and events and putting things together on the fly, actually. To me, that's where I thrive. I've been like that since I was a little girl. You give me something, I will run with it. I got something, and I feel like I've been holding back. So I'm sharing my smallness in this video, my rawness, and recognizing that I fell into the vortex here in Florida. When I was talking about the healing world, there really is nothing to fix. And that's what you end up finding out the more work you do on yourself. That it's not about fixing, it's about reclaiming, accessing the parts of you that you repressed and suppressed and denied and didn't want to confront and acknowledge were you. Those are the best parts of you. You know why? Because you exist. Even the stuff, the shadow, as people like to call it, without your shadow, how would you illuminate your light? Without your light, how would you be you? So everything serves, as dualistic and polarized this world is. That's just by design. That is the truth and the nature of this reality. Man playing God. How about you be the God that you were meant to be? And when I say that, I don't mean it with animosity or that idea that you have to feel like, look at me, I'm God. No, you have to honor the sacredness of your being, your human, your soul self, this temple that houses you in your godliness, because you are made in God's image, which is what makes you a God in training. I love that. Exactly, Pamela. Are we in training or just remembering? We're here to level up for a reason. It's not just, oh yeah, la-di-da-di-da. And it's so funny because both James and I have been conversing through WhatsApp, and the other day he said something that I believe. Oh, thank you, Blue Kachina. Is that essentially there's this sense of finiteness about this world and this reality. Almost like this is the last run. I don't know how to explain it, but I've felt that way for a few years now. Maybe I've always felt that way. But there is a sense like in finality about this round. And there's no such thing as getting it wrong. But the more we find what's right and we highlight that more, focus on the yuga, the golden age, well, that's what's supposed to be next. And we can still bring it. We can create it, but we have to really own it and embrace it. It's like I was having a conversation earlier. I was sitting in my meditation. I was like, you know, it's so silly. So many people buying into this whole energy crisis and, you know, green bullshit. Sorry, I'm just calling it out like it is, because it is. The idea of buying electric cars that eat up more resources. And if you haven't yet seen the kind of damage it does to worlds and countries and people, just to get those finite resources, to create that, just like your cell phone, no different, but on a larger scale. And so the sun's supposed to if all this electric is supposed to be run by the sun and what have you, there's a lot of solar out there. Think about that. They want to block out the sun. Does that make sense to anybody? You see how hypocritical and like out of alignment? If you just pay enough attention, you can see how things don't add up. When the one person is saying we want to block out the sun, and yet the other one over here is saying go to solar, when it's actually all this extra stuff. I mean, we've become more industrialized than we've ever been. I'm living in Florida, and every time I turn around, there's another one of those stupid towers going up, and I'm like, this is not normal. Who thinks this is normal? My cell phone connection is even worse. All of this stuff. I mean, yeah, exactly. And even people talking about get those little EMF protectors and this, that, and the other. And I'm over here going, it's just a matter of time before you realize none of it's going to work. So if you haven't connected in real life, how are you going to stay in contact with people and things? Yeah, phones have been tripping for the past week for sure. And last Friday when I took my walk, I was like, something told me don't upgrade to the new iOS. I don't know what to say about that, but just it came in and I said, okay, I'm not doing it. So I turned it off. I turned off the updates, and I normally don't really care. I mean, I come from that background, so I'm like, does it matter? They got access to everything and anything anyway. Yeah, Mercury retrograde especially too. But always remember, yeah, it is. I mean, we have telepathy. We can. In fact, if you haven't noticed, your gifts should be coming online if you haven't been feeling them and sensing them and having those conversations around your gifts. Certain people in your lives are feeling it and hearing you. Don't worry. Yes, exactly. We're all coming together. That's the point. And so it's beautiful. Life is beautiful. There is nothing to poo-poo on. There is nothing to be afraid of. And I don't feel fear of anything. I just figure, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I got this far in my life and so much crazy stuff in my life. I could be jilted. I could be upset. The times I've been taken advantage of and go, wow, how did I not notice that? And that's kind of what happened to me last Friday. I was like, whoa, really? Going back to the spiritual communities and this idea of hiding out and healing modalities and such. Doesn't really matter whatever it is for you. I caught myself last Friday. I've been saying it for a while. I'm like, so many people, they're hiding out in healing environments, spiritual communities. I'm doing the work. Look at me. It's more about the show than it is the actual real life application. And it's really easy to spot when you've done enough work on yourself, because you spot it, you got it. You know what I mean? Like if you haven't owned it in yourself, why would you own it in another? So when you see it in another, it's usually because that exists in you. We're all showing up to each other where we're at. And the more work you've done to the point where you acknowledge and you take it all as your whole, as opposed to, no, that's not me. I'm not like that. I don't like that about that person. Can you see the way they're behaving? That's so poor. Hello, you spot it, you got it. Own it so it doesn't own you and make you look like the fool. Hello, that's what I've had to learn all these years. Like, oh, I've been like that too. Woo, crazy. We're all human. And it's actually the cosmic giggle. It's the joke on us, is that again, with the spell casting, the choosing of the words, we are casting our lives. We are the cast. As whether we are actually, see, casting spells. You are the producer. You are the theatrics. You are the main attraction. Are you being the star of your show or an extra in someone else's, right? This is the craziness. And it's beautiful that so many of us are using these words. Exactly. When you don't have the best, you do the best with what you have. Don't be so hard on yourself. In fact, if anything, when you catch yourself in the shame department, hello, bring it back to your inner child and just remind yourself, when you know better, you can do better. But at the same time, usually it's in the moment that you're reclaiming and recapturing your power. Okay, caught the shame department, stop that. Stop shooting on yourself. You're here now in this. And this is where your power exists. Right? Reality is in the moment. All the other stuff is a distraction, and it's an energy suck, right? So here I was last Friday, walked into my house, and I was like, how did I get here? This is not the life I had intended for myself. I literally had to call myself out on how I had come back here. And now, I'm not saying this to belittle or shame on myself. I'm just sharing how I call myself out. I did come back because my dog was sick in 2013. And then I fell into the vortex here, going back to the healing space, the spiritual environment. Apparently, I had some stuff to still work on. There was no doubt in my mind about that. But I forgot the most important thing about living, about actually putting it into motion, the life that I had built and anticipated continuing even beyond where I'm at now, that everything I ever owned isn't in this country, but with somebody else in Italy. That's painful, and it stings. I share that because there was a point where I actually had to call myself out and go, okay, so why wasn't it important enough for you to say anything or do anything about that up until this point, let's say? Well, I actually have, and I've actually reached out to this person. It's really hard when somebody you used to be able to turn to does not respond, is not confrontational, and withholds your stuff in a way that seems energetically zapping. It's a very strong, long karmic relationship that I have with this individual. And as I share this story, because I don't want to go too deep into it, I will just, because I don't want to give it that much energy. I've really been in very deep contemplation, because here's the thing. As people will tell you, oh, what if you never see your stuff again? What if you just got to let it go? Listen, I'm a Leo. My den, my shit, someone else claiming it and not giving me a choice in the matter, first off, or even offering something in return. You know, I don't know. Maybe you knew you wanted to hold on to my stuff. Would have been nice. Hey, could I offer you something in return? Maybe help you over the years you've been struggling. No, go on and live your life as if I'm still there, even though you're in a relationship with someone else. Imagine it's like an energy suck of going, well, withholding my stuff is like saying, you don't want to let me go. That's kind of fucked up. And I see that for what it is. And I've done a lot of calling back and reclaiming my energy on this one. It's not an easy thing, because for a long time it kept popping up. Why does this keep coming up? And especially in the past year, and the reason it came up in the past year was because in October, November of 2021, he reached out to me, letting me know, I'm back in Italy, and I have some of your stuff I still need to send you. And he's only sent me my clothes and some of the books and things like that. But there's a lot of stuff that I had anticipated and he said he was going to send that he never has. We're talking every single thing that I hand meticulously out for my life. My Natuzzi leather sectional, my big flat screen TV and all accoutrements on that one, my teak table, dining room table, my wrought iron and tile bench, chair, table, outdoor setup, and all my kitchen stuff, the refrigerator, the washer, my bed, the armadio, the inlaid, this honey amber Sorrento Italian set that's enormous, dresser, drawers, all that stuff, my bike, all of my kitchen stuff that I say this because here's the thing. To have someone say to you, You may never see it again. I get that. I understand the letting go shit. I get that. But please, if anybody ever says that to you, remind them you can't just let some things go before you have fully grieved. And the part of before you can even let go, you have to acknowledge what it is you grieve, the loss, the death process. So part of me with sitting with this, and I go back to one thing, there's this in my art, all my art, art's not cheap, especially when you have it framed and such. There is one piece that I have asked for over the years that he would not send me. It's a leather, it's about this big by this big. It's a leather sunflower in wood, and I bought it in Krakow, Poland, when I was still in the military, long before him in my life. I am the sunflower. That's the irony. I am the happy being. I brought joy, right? First off, he had a house here in Florida. So he told me that he was going to actually be coming back to sell his house. At that time that he communicated with me, I was actually like, wow, that would be great. I'd really love to catch up with you. And also in the back of my mind, although I didn't say it, was we can finally close out some things, right? And if he's selling the house, I'll be honest, maybe he'll offer me some money for the time that he's gotten to use my items without, get to live with a furnished home, because he didn't have to go buy anything unless he wanted something extra. I offered to help him. I also suggested, because it was a double lot, had you considered, this is a great time to sell actually. And had you considered breaking it into 2 lots, because it's a double lot, you might even find that you do better. Whatever. He never got back to me about any of this. But the one last thing that I said to him was, I'd really like my sunflower picture. Could you send me that in the meantime? And his response was this: I like that. Really? Translation: I don't want to give it to you. That was a last communication I received from that person. And it was actually the last thing I expected from this individual, given that he's had my stuff at this point over 10 years. Last time I saw it was, wait a minute. He's had my stuff since 2011, January 2011 to be exact. The last time I saw it was February of 2013. So it's been 10 years since I've seen him or my stuff. I know that sounds like it's crazy in its own world, understandably. Again, I say, I literally fell into a vortex here. I sold my house in Maryland back in 2014 and bought the house I'm in right now. But why? Because at one point, because my dog was sick and I thought that she was going to live longer. That's part of that. I was actually looking at property elsewhere. I wanted to buy property in Europe at that time with the money I had. But something in my mind said, go to Clearwater. So this is where I ended up. Fast forward, I did not hear from him for all those months. He said he would let me know when he was coming to town, and he never responded about the sunflower picture. You all know that I had my explant surgery March 29th. I lost Buddy April 26th. Oh yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Wow. Wow. Wow, that's crazy stuff. Here's the thing that's interesting. And I say this in a way that, have you ever had a relationship that you went back and forth, back and forth? I had a moment where I kept on saying to myself, why does this person keep coming up? And I'm not even thinking about him. And then it caught me. I'm still there. This person has my stuff, which has my energy. And I didn't even realize I was carrying someone else. Listen, I don't even know. I feel like the naive woman over here. I also feel like the jilted ex. The idea how many people I've carried in my life, and I still go on acting like nothing. like, whoa, what is wrong with this picture? And this is when I know the universe has my back. Can't even explain it. That particular night, I had this whole realization. I could see the connection energetically. I know this is karmic. This is across lives. And he fucked up in this one for sure. This is my interpretation. I could be wrong. I could be way wrong. My mind, my ego, of course, it wants to be right. But I had always been there for him, and he knew that, and he knows I know him well. He used to always say to me, he used to say I was his kryptonite. He also used, and that he couldn't resist me, whatever that means, interpretation. He also would say that I knew him the best, and when I was gone, he claimed that he missed me, but he never made any attempt beyond saying that, right? If someone misses you, don't you think they would make an effort? That's how my world operates. I always made the effort when I did. So in times in our past, he becomes non-confrontational. He stonewalls and shuts down, doesn't respond. This is a perfect example of it. And there was one time I didn't even talk to him for almost 2 years because of, well, you know, Lana, work and me, and you know how I am. That was in the very, very old back past. And being what it is, I'll go back to the story. Essentially, I didn't need me going this far. When I confronted this, I was like, OMG. He may be in another relationship, but I'm still freaking there. I never left, and I didn't even realize that until last year. It was like a Jedi mind, F-U-C-K, to me. Even if it meant that in a small part of my mind that I was holding on to him, because, you know, we always got back together. We were just two peas in a pod, like similar values, similar mindsets, lifestyle, and all that. And I'm like sitting there going, I know he's in a relationship. And I sent him a message, and I was like, wow, how fucked up is it that you get to live the life I created for me? I mean, with my stuff is what I meant. That it feels really messed up when you feel like somebody else gets to choose to keep your stuff too. Him or his partner. I don't know who's running the show there, because you don't know with people and their partners and their relationships, or the excuses that people will say is the other person, but it is really them. But the idea, does she know Larry? Sorry, I said the name, didn't I? Does she know that I live inside your head, that everywhere you look, I'm right there? Tell me I don't feel that shit. That every time I was thinking, why does he keep popping up in my head? Maybe because I am there and he can't not see me. He can't deny that I'm in every single aspect of everything that he has there. Of course he doesn't want to let me go, because that's probably what keeps the spice of his life going. How fucked up is that shit, right? That in itself, that's some voodoo magic. That's some fucking crazy ass shit. He used to say he felt like he couldn't hold a flame to me. He used to say that he didn't feel he could live up to me, that when I walked in the room, I would light up the room. And that he felt very much like uncomfortable. That's what he claimed. Although I know he kind of also liked it too. You know, she's with me kind of deal, right? So think about that. The way that people cast spells and such and hold on to people without their even knowledge or permission. Like, I felt like I've been under a spell that I didn't even know existed, a karmic connection that I've been trying to release and let go of. The idea that you may be with somebody else, you're in my bed, you've got all my stuff. That's kind of sick. No, it is sick, not kind of. It's essentially saying what I said earlier. It's him not wanting to let go of me is withholding my stuff and keeping me coming back. Think about that. Like, that's how people do shit. You would think if you are no longer with somebody, you would be like, listen, we got to deal with the stuff issue, right? But the idea of having my stuff means I would have to seek and go after him, wouldn't it? So it's real easy to stonewall and shut down. I was over in Italy. I did send him a message asking if he was willing to see me, but he was also on a family trip to Croatia and never responded, of course. Not that he would. But how fucked up is that? Think about it. It's going to make for really good details in my book. And that's where I go back to the Phoenix Rising. It's about alchemizing, taking that energy back, reclaiming it. You don't fight dirty with people that are dirty. That just makes you dirty. You rise above it. You say, watch me. You think my stuff is going to hold me back? No. It sucks. It stings. It especially stings. It's very, very strange. Oh, so I'll go back to the other details. He's already making 6 figures. He works for the government. He's a contractor. That's what I used to do. He sold his house in Tampa 3 days before I had my surgery, but I didn't know that until after I got this intuitive hit to drive past his home. And I drove past it and I saw the contract sign thing that showed that it had been split into 2 properties. So I was like, oh, maybe he split it into 2 properties. But what I did was look it up on Zillow. And Zillow showed that he had sold it. I was like, oh, look at that. And it actually had the date. So it was March 26th. I was like, look at that. It doesn't even mean he came back. That's the other irony. He doesn't have to come back. When you sell property, you can do all that stuff online digitally. But the idea is that he hasn't reached out to right any wrongs, to communicate, to even express his side at all. It's sick. It's a twisted, sick karmic relationship. And I expected bigger and better things from this individual because he has been in the past the person I turned to. But I'm feeling rather jilted from the whole experience right now. Because like I said, when he initially sent me a message and said he was going to be coming back, I thought, an opportunity to catch up and to clear things out. Now, at this point in the stage of my life, given the fact that I initially, when I reached out to him, expressed some things that maybe in the past I never expressed, mostly because my heart was so wide open, and still is. I expressed how much I cared. And if he, at any point, ever questioned that I did care, I did share. I shared every little morsel of myself in that exchange, although there was nothing exchanged. It was just my exchange. The 1st of September was the last time I sent a message. And I have not heard anything in response. And it was last week, a week ago today, that I walked into my house like, wow. No wonder I'm not in a relationship. No wonder it's so challenging for me to date. Because there's been energetic hooks in me all this time. And I didn't even realize it. And I'm used to dating a certain caliber of man. Caliber that wines and dines and, you know, chivalry. I still believe in it, and I know it does exist. So yeah, I have a high standard of living and life and in the men that I give my time to. Because I'm not wasting time. Because I can see and feel and know if it feels and is right for me. And the man that I'm meant to be with will know the same. Because it will be somebody who wants to build an empire, that wants to be in their power, not someone who has to feed off of mine. Because that's exactly how I feel right now. Like somebody, there's been more than one. And this is the interesting thing about some of the men that I have attracted in my life and not recognized it at the time. That in my past, I have allowed betas. Didn't know that at the time. I saw that they were misaligned. I saw that their words did not match their actions. With Larry, I expected more because I experienced more. And there was a better regard back in the day. But I did not whatsoever expect this, where I'm at right now. So you sold your house, you make 6 figures, and you got all my stuff. Wow, look at you. You know, it's been really fucking hard. And I shared that. All these years, it's been really hard. Haven't had any help. Yeah, even with family that I love, you know, they can only do so much, and I accept their limitations as well. And that even in my time here, I've had to forge different relationships because, boy, oh boy, in the spiritual community, there's a lot of posers. But I've found a lot of really beautiful diamonds, and I hold very dearly to those wonderful, beautiful souls, because those are the ones that belong in my heart and in my circle. Only diamonds in my mind, in my life, right? I have a high standard, I'm just saying, and I expect you to do the same. Because if you're here, that means you deserve to recognize your value. Everybody does. Just you listening to this should raise your value in life, period. That no matter what has happened in your life, and I remember my mom saying it years ago, those bitter ladies, I wonder why they're that way, she used to say. And then one point I remember her saying, now I understand why. I understand why those ladies are bitter now. But again, even my mother would give the shirt off her back. She was the most amazing woman. You could have been a piece of shit and she'd still do the best she could. Because that was her ethic. That was her moral compass. To do better, not be bitter. She had her moments. There was some stuff. She had unresolved trauma, no doubt. But because of her unresolved trauma, she tried to do better. Like in service to others, in the sense that I don't want others to ever experience what I experienced. And that was her constant mantra to us girls, is I never want you girls to experience what I experienced. She would always try to give us the best, even when we didn't have the best, which is why I say it's not about always having the best, but doing the best with what you have. That woman was way ahead of her time. And honestly, that was a woman of a royal line. And I own that for myself. That you can't teach a certain level of class, a certain level of divinity, authenticity. You can't teach that. It has to be nurtured and fostered in you, from you. A lot of times it's humility. It's life experience that has to take you down a notch for you to recognize. Not everybody comes from that original knowing, gnosis, truth. Most people have to go through the shitstorm, literally have to lose it all to be humbled, if that even gives them humility and humbleness, right? What doesn't break you makes you. And I feel like that's been my life. And I didn't have any anticipation of learning the hard way, although I will tell you, unfortunately, in a lot of times in my life, I've had to learn the hard way. But in some ways, I've also said that I feel like if I'm the sacrificial lamb, I can at least express and relate to others and go, here's what I've learned from my personal experience. Lest you want to repeat the lesson, you want to listen? Hey, it's up to you. I'm not going to give you any information unless you're willing to listen, because I'm not going to waste my time either. Been there, done there. You know what I mean? Been there, done that. It was so, you know what? We're not here to repeat traumas. We're not here. In this next stage of my life, I am here to allow. Thank you very much. I'm allowing a beautiful, strong, well together, got his shit together, established man to show me the world again. I love that, right? PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. No more of that. I've got a wealth of experience and knowledge, and when I say experience, many lives between the military, being a Miss Maine teen pageant. I mean, I've been across all sorts of stuff, been in the acting realm and the modeling stuff, and it's like, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff out there. IT, ugh, fitness, a little bit of everything. And I'm grateful for every single bit of it. You know why? Because I'm right here, and it's all in me. And that's my essence that I try to share, is that everything that I share is really coming from my place of experience. I can't speak on anything but that. And I would rather not try to fake the funk or live a lie. Because that's hard knocks right there. Because if you have to keep repeating a story that's not true for you, that eats away from you in the inside out, eats you up, literally. What do you think cancer is? Every dis-ease is not acknowledging your own truth. It's literally dissing yourself and what your soul is desiring and calling forth of you. Where was I in the story? Yeah. Honestly, this has been a very humbling past week. I really hadn't anticipated sharing it in a video, but here it is. And you know why? Because I want you to understand that life can also pull the rug under the best of us and not realize it was even that that there was a rug to pull out from underneath of you. Like I said, I walked in on Friday and I was like, wow, here we are again. It doesn't sting any less, knowing I may never see or have my stuff again. In fact, I didn't have a choice in the matter now, did I? I didn't even have a conversation. It wasn't even asked of me. I think the part that hurts the most, thank you. I appreciate that, Blue Kachina. I like that, Kachina. Blue Kachina. It doesn't bother me as much about the stuff in a certain sense. I mean, it does. I like my stuff. I'm a Leo, my den. Hello. Everything my taste. All the little details to my 1200 Egyptian cotton and sateen and Pima, high quality sheets and all that wonderful stuff. That this individual that I have a history with, not once. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you went through that. That's the part that stings the most. The shutdown, the stonewalling, holding on. Oh. Holding on, withholding is the same thing. Not letting me go by withholding my stuff. Just assuming I should come after that. That's crazy. And I don't know if there's a story behind it. Doesn't matter what the story is. It's just the bottom line is here we are again. Wow. That one really hit me upside the head. But I also, like I was saying, when we sit with things like this, you have to ask yourself, how did I get here? How did I get here? Was I also hiding out in the spiritual community? Was I also hiding out, not acknowledging the life I always still desired, that I maybe even held out thinking that Larry and I would get back together again? Because we did in the past. Sure, I own that. Of course I had to own that. I owned it last year when I sent them my message. Every time I was always questioning myself, why he kept coming up. Why? And then it was this feeling like he knows he's not good enough for me, and that it's like punishment upon me since I'm not good enough for you. I'm not gonna let you go. That's kind of fucked up and sick. So how do you work through something like that? First off, you got to grieve it. You got to own it. That's funny. Oh no, he's born in 66 or 7. My Sag. Me and Sages. I like my fire signs. I'm a fire sign. Time, patience, honoring. And this is something also to check with yourself, that when you see someone going through something, sometimes it's more uncomfortable for you to witness someone who is grieving, someone who is having a rough time. Sometimes silence is the best option. The last thing somebody like myself wants to hear, and this is partly my ego, but also the part where someone turns around and says, well, you know, maybe you'll never see your stuff again and you got to let it go. You know how many times people have actually said that to me in the past? And I'm like, I don't want to hear that right now because I'm grieving it. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of that point. But I'm here to grieve it because guess what? It was a big part of my life, and you don't just let it go just because someone suggests it. If anything, what you're doing is talking ego to ego in those cases. Their ego wants to give you something, and your ego is saying, fuck off. Yeah. Oh, you're feeling like a lonely Elvis in a crowded room today. Ooh. Oh, my heart goes out to you. I have that sometimes myself. That's a beautiful, yeah. Isn't that the truth? When you know your power, but nobody around you actually sees it because they're not meant to. You noticing it is what matters most, right? Yeah, you have to know. And I talk about this in my other videos too. I'm going to lay off the Sages too. You know, I didn't say I was going to lay off the Sages. I'm not saying that. I like my Sages. I love my other Leos. Those have been big. And I want to say with Pamela, it has been feeling lonely for some of us a lot. I agree with you, honey. So sometimes that's why we go on these videos. This is why we, in the chats of a lot of common videos, because we need the human connection, and it's hard if you don't have it. You know how I am, I don't like that word. It's challenging in some of our environments. I will say, the things that I miss the most about Larry, traveling. I would give it to him and he would just plan the whole trip. He'd have the map out and everything he want, in a row. It was really beautiful. He'd have the restaurants planned. He'd have the whole map of the day. I just let him have it. And it was so relieving to me to let the man lead. That was what that relationship was like. That's why it's hard for me to believe and literally have to grieve this situation again. Because in my mind, that's my ideal man, is a man who shows up and I got this. Okay, thank you. I allow that. That's the kind of man I'm used to dating. Michelin rated restaurants, Michelin hotels, 5-star all the way, baby. Hello. Yeah, I like my creature comforts. Hey, and I don't deny it, and I don't apologize for it. Because guess what? The 5 senses, why would we have it on this planet if it wasn't meant to be delighted in, enjoyed, and appreciated? The problem is when you lose the awe, you lose the appreciation and the gratitude for it. It's in the humbleness of recognizing it could be gone in a heartbeat, right? Like for me, I look at people who have things they don't acknowledge as, being grateful. I'm grateful for everything I have too. Because again, there have been times I have struggled, but I've always made it work because I got taught by an amazing mother how to get by and to make ends meet and such and to work with a budget that you're like, oh shit. Like, I have a father if I need help, yes, but not, I don't like to ask. And I've always been that person. So yeah, of course, there was part of me going, why didn't I ask if I needed help all these years? Mostly because he was living his life and I was allowing him to live his life, right? It's crazy. Sometimes we fall into our own little deep coma. And this was my literal kick in the ass to wake the fuck up. Literally naive to the energetic vampires in my life over the past several years. Seriously. Like, I had no clue. And I'm the person who tells you, I don't believe in all that shit. Okay, then why is it whenever I've called back my energy, phones start ringing, people start acting funny, and I'm like, oh, look at you. I see what you did there. I kid you not. This is the kind of thing that happens in my life. I break glass and I know I'm shifting something. I'm like, oh, come on now. What's coming, right? I broke 3 things last week before that all happened during that last eclipse. I did not see that coming. I was aware of it last year, but I did not see that coming. I had to look in the mirror and own the fact that you deserve better than this. He knows that. And that's probably why he avoids me. Because I've been the person who calls people out on stuff in a loving way. I'm a big mama love over here. Call out shit. You want me to be your accountability buddy? I will poke and provoke you. To me, yeah, there's been some seriously strong energy for sure. Glass breaking is a major shift. When I break glass or have little fire incidences, those are the 2 biggies for me. But yeah. Whew. Something else I heard that was a good reminder I also want to share, and it goes in line with those. Those of us who are in positions to help people heal, a lot of us, right? We were all at rock bottom once, right? We were all in our shit. So when we talk about toxic people, can we still be compassionate toward those toxic people? Just like we were. We were toxic once. Sit with that. See, I'm the person who is usually the better person a lot of times. I've been the person in the past that would forgive. I would apologize too, unnecessarily in some cases. That was me. Yeah, once, right? Once, maybe a few times. I know I've been deep in my shit. I know I was toxic. How do I know I was toxic? It was probably the toxic relationships that I was having when I was living in Italy, like Italian boyfriends, like going off and acting all crazy, and me acting like they were the cause of my unhappiness, and and people saying to me, "Oh, Lana, don't let him steal your joy." And I'm like, "Fuck you! Did you see what he did?" I was toxic in those days, and it was embarrassing the way I behaved and acted, like really embarrassing. Me throwing a fit. Me doing some crazy ass shit. Hello, I own that. So it didn't own me. Some of the stories I could tell. I was so mad at Claudio one time, and I had my dog Angel, and I had a leather leash. I had bought it in northern Italy years prior. He was smoking a cigarette. I wanted to go home. He didn't want to leave. I took the leash and I put it in half, and I was snapping it, making the zero. You know how to do that? Snap it. I was so pissed off at him, and he was smoking a cigarette, and his cigarette was hanging out of his mouth, and I went up to him and I took it and went, psst, and I took the cigarette out of his mouth with it. He was pissed off at me. Obviously, number one, because he was smoking, but probably because I got so close to him and it didn't hurt him. I was kind of volatile then. Yeah, that was bad. He took the leash out of my hand, and when the trash was going by, threw it in the trash. Yeah. I was pissed because then I didn't have a leash for my dog, and I had to go get another one later. I lost a couple leashes in that relationship. That's crazy. Yeah, me and Angel walked home that night. That was a crazy relationship too. And that was the one that woke me up to repeating my parents' patterns. That was the one that went, how are you becoming mom, poking and provoking him like my mother used to with my dad? I was like, ooh, I didn't see that till I came home in 2008. And I was like, I have become my mother and I'm dating my father. No more. This stops now. Literally, that's when I started working on myself. That's when I did Date with Destiny. Because I knew I needed to heal my shit. I needed to reclaim mine and disown what wasn't mine. Because when we're repeating the patterns and the legacies, the generational curses that people talk about, it's because of what we witnessed. It's familiar. We learned how to be like that because we were exposed to it daily, especially when we're young. What do you think of this pink polish? I'm still unsure about it. Matches my ring though. I went to get my nails done the other day on my toes. My toes are like a cherry, I was feeling sparkly and I was treating myself before I went to my acupuncture appointment, which really knocked me out on top of this storm that came in last night. Anyway, this is not my style, by the way. I started writing a reclamation proclamation. Yeah. You know what? With the revelations that have been going on, people think revelations, they think of biblical stuff. The revelations, honeys, it's our shit. The revelations are coming from within. All the astrological stuff is just demonstrating what's going on within us. So although we could say it's eclipse seasons like it's affecting us, but it's really the eclipse is showing the stuff that's coming out of us. Oh, good for you, Pamela, right? Okay, wait a minute here. And chat, all messages. Yeah, the epiphanies. So the reclamation is after the revelation. Once it's been revealed to you, now you get to reclaim it. And that's really what this period is about. How many people are going to own, who are going to step into, like I said, your allness, rather than shriek back in your smallness? That's too easy. So, of course, I'm telling you this for my own accountability purposes. It's time to do retreats. Italy keeps calling me home. Dad and I are talking about moving to Portugal, and I'm over here wanting to go back to Italy because that for me is easy because I speak Italian. Hello. And I still have a lot of great connections over there, and I really want to share the pieces of Italy that inspired me in so many ways that I don't live to work. But when I worked to live. That was a huge one for me because I was a workaholic. And Italy reminded me it was about living your best life, even in the craziness of all the stuff that I just shared about the Claudio relationship, or, you know, what Deb and we would go to Capri and we'd get let in, we knew all the bouncers at the different clubs, and I didn't go to the clubs that much, but, a couple days during the week, and, okay, maybe not that much, but sort of, yes. It was a really great time in my life, but also learning a lot about myself, looking back. I don't drink anymore. I don't need to. Because I saw what it did. It was very unhealthy. And people act a fool when the spirits get into you, We don't need to be doing that. The spirits just wait and lurk, and there's an opening, there's an opportunity, they're drinking again, let us enter. And then they take over. And we're not in our right minds, are we? Talk about spellcasting. We're in a really, really opportune time. It may be challenging, and I want to let you know, you're not alone. We're all experiencing it to some degree, on some level. Literally, it's time to level up. You know that song? Level up, level up, level up. I even told my dad, I said, it's in this next stage of your life, it's time that you experience and enjoy life. Don't look at what you can afford. Don't compare yourself to prices. Like, that's the lack mentality. We need to get out of that. You are valuable. You deserve to have good experiences, and don't equate it to the amount of money something costs. People don't realize how easily they are dissuaded from their joy by the way they equate money, whether they value it or not, or have a story around it. Money is simply a tool. And if you don't have access to a lot, doesn't mean you're not resourceful. Doesn't mean you don't have value. It does feel good to acknowledge it all, though. To feel clear and clear and breezy from the inside out. And so that's the thing, is as I'm sharing with you, it's like, it's not like a confession as much as giving you permission to recognize that shit may suck. But sometimes when you're sitting in it, you're like, wow, yeah, this kind of sucks. It stings. And it comes in waves, because that's what it's all about. Life is a series of, ebbs and flows, and going with the cosmos and acknowledging in this moment. I've got a lot of humility. I'm very humble. I have a lot of compassion for myself and others. Knowing that when yesterday the traffic was really crazy. So I got my nails done. I went and had my acupuncture appointment. I stopped off on a couple places because I was hungry. And then when I got home, I had this lingering migraine. And I don't get them as often, but sometimes when I get a migraine, it's debilitating. And I had a lot of tenderness. And she worked me. I said, here we go. I know I'm about to purge and move some energy, because that was like literally the blowing of the top type deal is how migraine can feel. And then a storm rolled in last night, and I'm like, what's going on outside? I don't even check the forecast half the time anymore. Once in a while, maybe to check the temperature of what to dress, right? I look out my back yard, and I've got a big oak tree. And I'm like looking at it, and the wind is just, and it's like, hello. Like, I'm thinking it's going to bow down and like shake my hand. It's that ominous out there. And then the rain happened and everything else. And I had sent a message to Andy and said, is there something I should know about this storm? Because the solar storm's on top of that, right? That's probably the other thing, because I'm very much sensitive to the solar storms a lot of times, and I forget about that. But literally this migraine, and actually was talking with another guy tonight, migraines knock me out if it's that bad. And I haven't had one in a very long time. So I was in bed like at 9:30 last night, felt later than it was. And I was so drained and exhausted. I put on one of my yoga nidras that I recorded for pain, and I was out. And then when the alarm went off this morning, I was like, oh, I need more rest. I was like, wow, I needed more rest on top of the sleep that I got. I probably didn't fall asleep till about 10:30, but still. I wondered about that. It felt like it could have turned into a tornado, but I'll straight up tell you that I called on all the guardians of the land, and I have this whole thing about the land dwellers that are the guardians in my neighborhood. I'm like, I put out the protective call. I do that a lot, actually, especially with the craziness of these times. And ever since I've recognized that, there's some people that are got not so good intentions around me, trying to suck off and feed off of my energy, I'm like, okay, I'm calling in the big guns. If I need it, clear it. Anything coming at me bounces back off and right back to him, because guess what? It's a boomerang effect. You may think you want ill will against another person. Don't ever give yourself that karma. I'm near Tampa, yeah. If you point a finger out, you try to wield a spell on someone else, you get it 3 times back at you. So this is why I don't play dirty. And this is why I say the Phoenix rising is alchemizing, is acknowledging, yeah, the animals feel it, is acknowledging, don't drop to that level. When someone comes at you, let them burn themselves up. That's the true Phoenix rising alchemizing. Allow the energy to bounce off. Don't accept or allow it. Just swoosh. It's not mine. It's more of a boomerang. It's more of that acknowledging, like what I've had to do over these past few weeks is like anybody, because I felt like literally like there's been people that I unknowingly have waged war on me. That's some fucked up shit. I didn't even know it existed. Oh, well, we know the vet clinic wasn't too happy with me calling out the situation with my dog. So she waged it on me by getting my social media closed. I mean, that's pretty messed up. And then even tried again with my Pinterest. I'm like, people are fucking nuts. I'm sorry. This is the world we're living in. But again, that stuff always goes back. And they got to live with that poison. So again, back to the, can you still have compassion for the toxic people around you when you once were that toxic person? Yes, of course you can. But you don't have to allow them to intrude, wax off. That's cute. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Because literally wax slides off. Yeah, you don't have to allow that. Not anymore. Be the better person. And the better person knows that justice, just is always served. They create their own demise. They actually are the ones who burn in their own flames. So, ironically, although we think about the phoenix rising from the ashes, they themselves have to burn themselves up for them to alchemize and become the phoenix rising. See how that works? So this whole phoenix phenomenon, if you want to get technical, most people don't realize it's about that. The phoenix phenomenon, I was born at 10:38, by the way, is about, if you haven't already burned yourself up, it is about the rising from your own shit. That's the ascending. That's the enlightenment, lightening up. Yeah. The irony of the words. It's much simpler than people have made it out to be. You know, oh, everybody's trying to decode, everybody's trying to say this, everybody's trying to say that. So everybody wants to be right. Just be right for yourself in the end. And we can all connect on the same level because we all want to know. Not all of us. We don't all have a clue. We don't all have it, you know. Using your tunic, yes, there. So, and that's the other thing is, and I know Cheryl Ann, you're a big healer as well. So humming your own tune. You are. If you want to, you want to tune yourself up, just hum, make noises. Your body responds to that. You don't need an external healer. You can do it from the inside out. All the great sages and the gurus and the teachers have known this stuff, and here we are using science to prove it to us. Oh, come on. We're beyond that now. Especially those of us who pretty much are calling out all the BS out there. We're like, come on, really? Your words and you're not, you know, your audio and your video are out of sync, people. I can't even believe people are still talking politics, right? Everything's become politics. Gender politics, that's fucked up. All right, shift your focus and attention. Let's find gratitude again. What's working, not what's not. I feel to veil my head a lot. Oh, there you go. Yeah, because solar. This is our crown, ladies and gents. Place your crown on. I wear my hair up a lot so that I don't pick up other zappy energies. If you do feel, this is a good little tip from Kundalini Yoga, if you do feel like you're getting a lot of like thoughts that don't feel like your own, and recognize that, like, ooh, where'd that thought come from? Might be time to wash your hair. Sometimes that's all it takes, is letting the water clear the air out of your hair. We are antennae, our hair, our antennas pick up all the frequencies around us. The clothes you wear, linens are the best, especially on your skin. Like they used linens in the hospitals to speed up healing. Now everywhere you go, everything's synthetics. That stuff absorbs into your body, into your bloodstream. Your skin is your largest living, breathing organ. What you put on your skin, whether it's a cream or a material, is very important. Of course, I have some synthetics and I do still wear them, but honestly, for years I've wanted to just start my own clothing line. Obviously, it's going to have to be in the US. Oh, I love that. Yes, water cleansing spells. Like you have a special spell when the water's washing over you. Let it all cleanse and clear you. I love that. The shower is a great place to do all sorts of nice magic, right? Dazzle me in diamonds and, whatever crystals come out of the water. We deserve that. That's self-care. That's self-love for sure. I love that. I love that you said that, Pamela. That's beautiful. Ooh. And then, of course, facial reflexology. We need to be really up in our games. Let's just say that. Dress ourselves up, get dressed up and feel more, you know? This next stage in my life, I'm in ease and grace. I am allowing and receiving that which is due me, is finally due. Yeah. I clear all karmic debt. I no longer owe anyone anything. Now I get to call in my debts, and I am equally receiving as much as I have given out. Even beyond what I know for sure. Hi, Valley. It's beautiful to see you. Oh yes, we have reached the state of peace. If you go back through the video, you'll get to hear my angst and stingy stuff. Me acknowledging how I have not been fully living in my allness. And I was totally oblivious while shrieking in my smallness. Why was I oblivious? Because funny enough, I feel like I fell into a vortex here. And this place has a vortex. And I don't know how I lost 10 years. Last year when I realized it was 9 years. And I had just started renovating my home and I'm like going, what have I done? I'm still standing here doing this to myself. Like, this is not where I anticipated. I had every intention to go back to Europe for years. I somehow forgot. And life happened along the way. And then I had crazy people come into my life. And now I'm getting back on track. And that's my point. I've been living in a coma for the past 10 years. It's kind of how it feels. That I'm waking up from the fact that I had no intention of being here. Doesn't mean I won't have a home base here. But it's time to travel. It's time to do retreats. I want to take people for experiences. Oh, I love that. Thank you very much, Pamela. I would love to hear your spell. Definitely. Like spread the love, spread the wellness. So yes, I have been reclaiming, acknowledging, and this is what I do. And maybe this will inspire some of you as well. There are a lot of beautiful things in my life that worked really, really well. I'm very resourceful. I am like a chameleon. I can adapt to any environment, which is why I love to travel, because I can fit in anywhere. I can get dressed up, I can get dressed down. I love to meet people. I love experience. I love cultures. I love art. Oh, do I love art. That's why I love beauty. And I'm actually re-beautifying my world now. That's another part of my intention right now, is to re-beautify my life. I had a lot of beautiful things. I can have it again. Everything that I have in this house right now, aside from, yeah, I did buy this. This was, because I like pink, was not something, it's a lot of stuff here has actually been temporary. or given to me, or it came from my house in Maryland, or I bought it, my bedroom set I got at the Habitat for Humanity. Beautiful set. Oh, that's really sweet of you. Remember, guru means Guru, and that what you recognize in me exists in you too. The true guru is the one who reflects back to you. So for anybody who I appreciate that comment and that is a beautiful endearment, I graciously accept that, because I don't think it's right to deny someone the beautiful compliments, and that is something I receive with pure love and my open heart. That anyone out there, whatever you see in me, whether you like it or you dislike it, look in the mirror and know that it is you see in me. The mirror, we are all each other's mirrors, and we are always mirroring back to one another, where we're at in the moment, where we may have been in the past, and surely could be where we are headed in the future. It all exists in the moment. And even the stuff you dislike, gotta own that too. We've all got it in us. Got a little devil, a little angel, right? That's the polarity. That's the life. And that's the reality of this human existence. It's like a little joke, but it's not. Really, life is supposed to be fun and funny. That's why the words are so silly, so hilarious, where we're like, do you listen to words? Do you ever notice that most words, the majority of words, have duplicate meanings, if not more than that, but polar meanings? There was something I was listening to the other day, and I was like, oh, that's clever. I hear it. Yeah. It's a time of transformation, letting go of attachments. Here I am sharing about my stuff, and I'm like, that means the universe has something bigger and better for me. Still sucks. Still stings. But I got something to look forward to no matter what. I also got something to motivate me and kick me in the ass. Because that's kind of how it felt. It was like, oh, okay. Now it's time to step it up. Show them what you got. Not that it's something about using that to get back at anybody. That's not what I mean when I say that. I mean it from the perspective of, well, maybe the person was trying to hold back because they expected me to come after it or to do whatever. I don't know. But maybe sometimes you do what's least expected. You rise above it. Don't let it take you out. Sometimes that's the trip you up. That's the part about life, is whether you're going to let something take you out or you're going to rise above it. And that's really what this time is about. Like, don't sink back into old habits and patterns. Like, at this particular juncture and how I feel about the whole situation, a year ago, I had one sense. At this point, I'm over it. Over the person. Over the situation. Not necessarily over my stuff. Sad about the fact that not everybody's as decent and of a good character, let's say. So yeah. I'm in humble gratitude for me, still being me. That no matter what life has done, and there have been some doozies, I still rise, and I'm still here. And I will continue to be me in all my authenticity. Love does hurt, but it's ego. That's not love. What hurts is the attachment and the expectation. So that's the part I've owned, is that I had higher expectations of the individual. And that's the part that people don't acknowledge. It's not the love that hurts. It's the expectation of actions behind what you have a belief system and ideology around what love is. Love wouldn't do that. So therefore, that's not love. It's not love that hurts. It's the attachment to the individual that you thought you loved. What hurts is not letting it go. Even if it was good, even if it was bad, doesn't matter. Love is at the root of it all. What hurts is the ego not wanting to let go. That's what that is. The pain comes from the inability to let go of the ego. Because the mind's the one that actually creates all the drama, all the trauma, and the discomfort that the body is going, well, technically, it's just an experience, but you're making it more complicated. Oh, that doesn't feel right, you know? Think about it. When the mind ruminates, it gets so caught up in things. That's why God made two middle fingers. Made two middle fingers. That's good. Um, clever. The ego is the one that gets us in trouble, right? So if you've heard me speak before, and the way I tell it is that you master your breath so you can master your mind, because the breath gets you to slow down and be in the moment. And then you start to observe all the inner workings of your mind. And when you know that your own thought patterns, you're like going, oh, there you are again. You become aware of your own conditioning, your own beliefs, the type of thoughts that continue to play like a record player in your head. You can confront them. You can actually deal with them as opposed to them running the show. Because without slowing down and recognizing and paying attention to your thoughts, your mind is mastering you. So when you master your breath, you slow down, you can observe and witness and master your mind. Then you can master your life. That's because you own your thoughts and you don't let them own you. You don't let them run you. It's a great reveal. Those are the revelations. When you acknowledge, oh, I am not my thoughts, but they sure feel real sometimes. Yes, knowing thyself is what will be the key to this universe. Know thyself, own thyself, so that therefore when someone tries to take advantage of you or get one over on you, you'll acknowledge and recognize it right away. Because even in you, that exists. So when you know yourself so well, you know thyself to the point of all your dark little secrets and all your little manipulations. Oops, I'm capable of doing that because I acknowledge it and see it in another person. That's what happens. How many times have you been in a situation where you wanted to act like the other person did something to you, but in reality, you allowed them to? So then that's where the sting is you not calling it out, and then at the same time not owning your part and your expectation of allowing them to get something else in return. There's manipulation on all parts. It's just how much do we own it? Like a lot of victims will say, well, they did this to me. Why did you stick around? You know, I know, right? Manipulation. Who, me? Yeah, it's easier to play the victim and be ignorant or not want to own the part where you were expecting something in return, because that's very, very common, especially with the world we're living in today, where right now we have a mass psychosis going on and they're trying to normalize mental illness, narcissism. Hello, look at me. I want attention. Look at me. Give it to me. The idea that it's not your actual biology or your true body wisdom or feeling. It's your indoctrination. It's your mental health and wealth. Yep, we got some crazy stuff going on in the world. Okay, that's enough. I will end this beautiful transmission. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for showing up. Thank you for listening to my silliness over here in my wackadoo life. Always calling on myself, I'm more loving. Yes, we have to be. If we don't love on us, how can we expect others to love on us? That's the beauty, is it's like when you learn to have compassion with yourself, others will follow suit. When you start to establish a standard, not necessarily a boundary. Boundaries, they kind of cage you in. It's really about this like real, like, believe it or not, why do you think superpowers, all the stories, right? Put your hands on your hips and let your heart, Care Bears, let the heart out there. I say namaste, not today. I love that. I can totally see myself back in Europe again, I'm sure. Oh, I hope whoever needed to hear this, it inspires you. Again, this is my whole purpose for being here. And Mish, I promise you, Shakti, I have a couple workshops that I am putting together. In fact, I'm thinking to putting together it's a women in wellness course, basically, that brings us together for accountability and integration and people that we can communicate with. Yeah. Oh, Valley, I love you. Thank you. You're a keeper too. Confirming 100%. I am here to inspire, uplift, support, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you are here and meant to be. Because you're here to serve too. We all have gifts. Your pain is your purpose. That's part of your path. Because when you've been there, you're like, oh, I have so much more passion. The passion of Christ. Hello. We got a whole lot of living to do. Hey, I'm not even that old. I feel young. When people look at me, they just assume I'm younger, and I'm very grateful. Very grateful. I'll be 49 this year. I don't feel it. I feel young. I feel alive. I feel better than I have in years. And I'm here to take y'all along for the ride. So it's all about re-youthing, because we don't have to age. Just saying. I love you so much. Have an amazing rest of your evening, wherever you are. And just, again, and Pamela, you look damn good for your age. So do you, Valley. Oh my God, thank you. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.